big boy table.
Okay, I'm going to call this meeting of the Economic Improvement Corporation to order. First order of business in the invocation. If you'll bow your head, I'll call us together with a prayer. Father God, what a wonderful God you are and how you bless us in so many ways. Help us to open our eyes and see the opportunities that you provide to us every day to serve you and do your work. We ask that you grant us wisdom, compassion, and understanding, and give us good judgment today as we do the city's business. We ask these things in your name, Father. Amen.
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 First order of business is Visitor Citizens Forum. Any citizens of business not scheduled on the agenda may speak to the Economic Improvement Corporation. No deliberation or action can be taken on these items because of the Open Meeting Act requires an item to be posted on the agenda 72 hours before the meeting. Visitors are asked to limit their presentation to 3 minutes. Do we have any visitors today? Move on to item 2, approval of the minutes. Have y'all had an opportunity to review the minutes from the September 19th meeting?
I move that they're approved as written.
Have a
Second.
motion? Can I get a second?
Yeah.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion is passed. Monthly reports, the financials.
Hello, I'm Amy Dozier. I'm the Assistant Director of Finance, filling in for Sandra, who's on vacation this week.
Great. Welcome.
Thanks. I think y'all have a packet in front of you. I'm going to go through some of the highlights of the
And I
September.
apologize, can you speak in the mic? I don't hear very well, so that'll
Sure.
help me a lot.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, September financial
Okay.
statements. Y'all should have a packet in front of you, and we're going to start with the main sales tax improvement fund that has a beginning cash balance of $4.6 million. We collected sales tax revenue of just over $260,000 for the month, and a little bit of interest. We also closed the Callow Theater upgrade project and had $4,600 left in that project once all the expenses were paid, so we've transferred that money back to the main sales tax improvement fund as a transfer in. On the expense side, you'll see administrative fee, transfer out for debt service, and then we've made transfers for multiple projects, and these are transfers from the Sales Tax Improvement Fund to the Projects Fund. So these were things that were in the EIC budget for the year, the Olympic Pool, $100,000, and then 3 different downtown streetscape projects for parking garage, planter boxes, and street furniture, and then an additional $100,000 for housing. So that's showing total expenses of $581,000, and then the ending cash balance of almost $4.3 million. So down a little bit because of those transfers.
Okay, wait, hang on just one second.
Yes.
You're still working off the summary?
I'm looking at this.
I don't have that page.
You don't have this page?
I don't either.
Okay.
Which one is it?
It's the first page.
Yeah, it's the first page. That
Sales tax
page is just
improvement
missing.
fund summary.
Okay. All right. What does y'all's first page look like? And we can talk about that while she's making some copies. Do you have something that looks more like this one?
Got that one.
We got that one.
Okay. Well, let's talk about this one to start with while
Okay.
she's making a few
All right.
copies. Okay. This kind of gives us the same sort of look, but this is on a year-to-date basis. If you look at the third column over, you'll see that year-to-date actual column. Y'all with me on that? Okay, so we have total revenues of almost $3.2 million for the year. Obviously, the majority of that is sales tax revenue. You can see that we came in very close to budget for the year with sales tax revenue coming in at 99.64% of budget. And then on the expense side, as you move down the page, you can see the expenses for administrative expense and then things that y'all have spent money on as far as debt service and the Economic Development Governing Body. So those total administrative expenses of almost $1.4 million for the year, also coming in right on budget at 99.97%. As you continue to move down and look at that year-to-date column, you can see the different projects that money's been spent for. So James Avery, we've moved over $610,000 to the project fund for that. Moving down the page, you'll see the Olympic Pool, the downtown streetscape enhancements, and the Callow Theater upgrade.
Okay, excuse me?
Yes,
The only thing I see on year-to-date actual under category 2 is simply the Callow Theater upgrades only.
Yeah,
That's
you're
it.
working off different forms, and we don't have the
okay.
summary sheet or
Our
this.
summary sheet doesn't have
Okay,
those
well, how about
upgrades either.
this? How about if we go to the second item on the agenda? I will
Let's
make
make some
copies
copies
of
and then
this,
come back to that,
and
if that's
we'll come
okay.
back.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we'll move on down to 3B and do a project update, and then we'll see if we can get those numbers right.
Okay, 3B is the Kerrville Sports Complex. And so, as you can see, we've got 4 contractors. Our project work started on August the 1st of this year. If you go out there and you look at what's happening to this point, J3 is doing the dirt work and really the primary infrastructure pieces. And the entire site had been rough graded, and so now you're starting to see final grade coming in. Purple pipe is being delivered. That's for our irrigation pipe. Ultimately, that'll be able to convert over to reuse water with that utility line extension coming forward. To that end, City Council did award a contract to construct the reuse pond and the pump station at their last City Council meeting. So that project has been approved. We're finalizing contracts. Should have the contracts executed this week. So should begin to see construction commence on that piece within the next 4 to 6 weeks.
Really?
So again, that's a primary piece that ultimately goes into the longevity of this particular project. Although started first, this project came in, it's an opportunity to support that. But
Not in relation to that same project or whatever, then I'm assuming since that contract's been awarded, we'll be getting the funding agreement back to us
yes, you'll be getting funding agreement back at your next meeting.
next meeting.
We're scheduled to do. Right. There are curbs being installed, throughout the road. There's about a half-mile of road that comes into the soccer side, and so a lot of the curbs are pretty much complete in that section. And then the additional curbing for the roadway coming into the baseball facility will come in next after that. So curbing's probably about 30-40% complete, I would say, probably in that project. Is that about right? And of course, core utilities have been installed throughout the project, water and sewer, those types of things. Mid-America Sports is the contractor doing the actual sports fields themselves. And so they've brought the final grading for those fields in. If you actually go and you drive and look into both sides of the complex, you'll see the new black dirt coming in. So they're bringing those fields up to really that final grade. The next step will be then to install the irrigation systems throughout the project. So that will be coming in next. And that should be happening this week, actually. J.K. Bernard is doing the buildings out there. And you'll see the primary building for the soccer complex, the mason, I guess, halite block walls are probably about 70% complete now. So you can see that. The slab for the secondary building in the complex has been installed, and the rough end for utilities is there. On the baseball side, there is a slab there for a city building. That's a maintenance building and office. So that, again, slab is there. The core utilities have been roughed in. They have started the base work for each one of the storage and restroom facilities that'll be there for each one of the little baseball areas. So we've got 11 baseball fields out there, and so those are all roughed in and graded in, much to the same standard that you're seeing on the soccer side. So that's moving on. You'll start to see some of those other buildings go up here in fairly short order. DW Electric is finalizing their conduits for lighting for all the fields. We're going to light a portion of the soccer complex. So those pedestals are actually installed and conduits been pulled to those areas. On the baseball side, we've got the 2 major fourplexes. So 8 of the 11 fields will be installed with competition field lighting. The other 3 fields, which are the ones down closest to Holdsworth, have conduit run, so at some point when the city is ready to install lights over there, if you need them, you've got that conduit ready, so the services will be ready. Plus, conduits run out there for all your scoreboards that'll be installed out there towards the end of the project. So that's happening there. Just today, our Musco lighting elements were delivered, so they actually saw the 18-wheeler out there on site this morning. So your lights are there, and they'll be going up probably in relatively short order as well. So you'll start to see a lot of things really begin to take shape out there. This is the point when people start to get really antsy, because you can see everything, buildings going up, you can see the flat work being poured. Pretty soon you'll have paving out there for streets and parking lots and those types of things. So we'll start to, I'm sure, get lots of questions about when and where is it all going to happen. We're still on track at this point to have this facility competition ready in July or August of 2017.
Todd, are we going to have city personnel out there all the time?
Yes, sir, we will. The operation.
In an administrative capacity.
Yes, sir. We have actually already hired our complex manager. So we actually have that person on staff today, and they're overseeing the installation and they're overseeing the development of that project. We actually have the last quarter of this year to actually start to bring staff on to begin to gear up staff-wise for maintenance and operations of the facility. So the way it's going to operate is the city is going to basically maintain the entire campus. That entire park is something that the city staff is going to maintain. We are going to schedule and run the operations on the soccer side. We've done a lease agreement with a third party to schedule and manage and market the baseball complex side. And the reason why we farmed that out was we needed to have an entity that came in that had a relationship with the baseball and softball competition world. And so they've got those connections and bring tournament play and to be competitive in that market. So that's how we're set up to do that. But we'll have a project or campus manager or facility manager who is a full-time city employee. And we've got full-time management or maintenance staff that work for him at that facility as well. And so they'll be stationed there, they'll be housed there, they'll be spending all their time there at that facility.
Thank you.
If one of us wanted to go and view the site, do we need to make arrangements in advance with somebody? Or I know it's a construction site. Do we need to check with city staff or? Sure. If you may want to contact Mr. E.A. Hoppy. Okay. So if you'll contact EA and he'll work with Ashley to get you scheduled and get you out there. Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. They're tired of seeing this yellow Jeep that traipses out there unannounced all the time. So they've been pretty kind. But EA's got a red pickup truck, so they'll be seeing a red Ford pickup truck out there. It's Ford, right? Dodge. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. It's not. I'm sorry. It's not a real truck. It's a Dodge. Oh, sorry. I'm just kidding. It's a nice truck. Anyway, so that's where we are there. We are finalizing the design for the indoor athletic facility, and so our plan would be to have that ready to go out to bid towards the end of this year. So we're still on schedule. Mid-America that's going to be doing most of the rest of the installation as far as fences and dugouts, and I mean they're the ones that build. Mm-hmm. That's right. Fields. Okay. That's right. Cool. J.K. Bernard will do the structures, actual buildings themselves, but the fences and all those things will be done. Lights and scoreboards will be done through DW. Yeah. That's right.
Is it my understanding that our goal is to have a state and county and countrywide tournaments out there, softball and baseball, throughout maybe the United States?
You certainly have that opportunity, and that would be ideal to be able to draw some of those. There's already an organization that's been interested in trying to bring a World Series competition for littles, meaning U12s and younger, and then a regional, which is a U16 kind of tournament here. Connie Mack is the tournament, and so that's more of a select baseball type of organization. They're a nonprofit youth organization that does the Connie Mack tournaments throughout the country. So they're divvied up. Their regional president, who's stationed in Oklahoma, has been very interested in trying to do an event down here in Kerrville. And so they were looking probably in the 2018 timeframe to bring it in. They had hoped to try to get it done this year, but we would need to have guaranteed the facility by July of 2017. That's just, cutting a little close when he's out getting registrations and those types of things today. But there's interest that's there, and our lessee that we have for the baseball facility itself, they have a pretty long reach into the youth baseball and softball markets, and so they're looking to develop and want to really open this facility, in that, I guess that summer session with some sort of hill country baseball, softball kind of event.
Good.
So that's what they're looking at this point.
Good.
Good news.
Okay.
Thanks,
All
Todd.
right, thank you.
Thank you, Todd.
All right, we're gonna try item 3A again.
Apologize for the confusion.
Not a problem.
Make more sense.
I operate confused most of the time, so it's okay.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Yeah, this looks different.
Yeah, it looks a little different. Thank you.
That was my fault. Oops.
All right, this is all going to make so much more sense now. Okay, so the first page that we're looking at, y'all see a beginning cash balance of $4.6 million. Okay, this is the Sales Tax Improvement Fund summary for the month of September. So we started with $4.6 million. We added sales tax revenue of $260,000. We had some other small revenues too for interest revenue and a transfer in for closing the Callow Theater project. And then we had expenses that totaled $581,000. Some of those expenses were for debt service and administrative services. The large majority of them were transfers out to the project fund, and they were transfers for these specific projects that are listed here. Olympic Pool, $100,000, and then 3 downtown streetscape projects, $160,000 for the parking garage, $20,000 for planter boxes, $100,000 for street furniture, and then $100,000 for housing, to total $581,000 in expense. So that reduced our cash balance for the month, and at the end of the month, the cash balance in this fund was almost $4.3 million. If we move on to the second page, you'll see the same sort of information. It's the same fund that we're looking at, but this gives us a picture of the entire year. And if you look at the third column over, that year-to-date actual column, we can see how we've done for the entire year. So we started off with a beginning cash balance of $3.657 million. We had revenues during the year that consisted primarily of sales tax revenue of almost $3.2 million on the revenue side. And then on the expense side, we have different categories of expenses. So the first is the administrative expenses that include the debt service are the big items there. In the category 1, business development expense, we moved $610,000 to the project fund for the James Avery project. The category 2, quality of life projects, you can see the monies that have been moved from the sales tax improvement fund to the project fund for the various projects listed there. And then finally, the category 3, public infrastructure. We have $100,000 that's been moved over for housing. And all those things totaled together get us our total expenses for the year of $2,561,857. So that puts us in a net position of, we have revenues in excess of expenses of $631,923. And that gets us to our ending cash balance of the $4,289,843. If you look at the third page, this gives you just some information about sales tax for the year. Yes,
And
sir.
I'm sorry, I just want
Go
to make sure I
ahead.
understand.
Yes, sir.
So what we've done is we've taken that out of our, basically our cash balance, and we moved it over to our capital improvement.
Yes,
So
we've
we've got
moved it
credit.
over to the
credit-
project fund,
The credit
yes.
comes back into the capital
Exactly. When we
okay.
get back to the project fund, you'll see that money coming in there.
Okay.
So the money has not actually been spent on the projects
Okay.
yet. It's just been moved to the projects fund where it's
Okay.
reserved for those projects. Anything else?
No, that was,
I do have
Sure.
something since we're on that.
Yes.
And I had sent Todd an email for clarification today when I was looking through the other financial report. You know, I know that when you get to the project fund page, or the capital projects fund summary, where you show these things that have been transferred over, I'm curious about the 500,000 that we had, you know, we're gonna do ED set aside, and we have the 2014 and 15, but I don't see the 2015 and 16. That's gonna happen after this month?
As part of our year-end close, we're still officially closing 2016 out for about another week or so before we finalize our numbers. It just happened to hit that this meeting was before we officially closed everything. But yeah, we can move that 500,000 for the ED set aside as part of our final year-end entries.
Okay.
And so, yeah, you'll see that next month.
Okay.
And if you move to the sales tax revenue analysis on the next page, this one's interesting. It shows multiple years of sales tax revenue, and it also shows our budget for fiscal year 16 and our actual. You can see that compared to budget, we're very close to what we budgeted, you know, at over 99% of budget for the year. So that's good. And then if you look at 2015 versus 2016, our sales tax revenue is up 2.37% year over year when you look at it in total for the full year.
Great.
Any questions on that one? Okay.
I
sure.
guess two
Go ahead.
observations or comments, and I'm not great at math, but it appears, and Todd, or Amy, you might can answer this, is the 2.37, it seems that's a little lower than it has been in the past. Are we just a little bit more conservative in our estimations this year? Or is that a sign, or or am I wrong in that?
Well, and that is an actual number, so that's actual 15 compared to actual 16. So it's that 3.1 million of in 2015 compared to the 3,174 in 2016. So it does mean that our actual sales tax increased by 2.37% for the year, which we have seen some larger growths in previous years, but it is very close to what we budgeted. And we do usually see a cyclical trend with sales tax where probably a couple of years ago we've kind of peaked and we're coming down a little bit. We are still in the positive territory though, so that's a good thing. Anything else you want to add on that, Todd?
Yeah, we went back, you remember, we
Yeah.
talked about this with the budget, we went back to 67. And
Yep.
we kind of-
Graphed it
Yeah,
out, I remember
saw
that.
that.
So
Yeah, we
we're
have
kind of
this-
on that leveling part
yeah.
of the wave. And within the next 2 to 3 years, you should probably see your next kind of jump, but it should.
Okay, second question is then, I'm assuming in next month, will we see the projections for next year then?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if we've seen those yet or not, have we?
I'm not sure if you have
No.
or not, but we definitely have those for the 17 year, and yeah, we have those by month, and we are looking at still a slight increase over 16, but the downward slope that
Would it be
Todd's talking
possible to
about.
get those emailed out in the next
Sure.
week or so that we
Yes.
can have a little bit more time to look at that as we get ready to look at next year?
Yes.
Is that all right with everybody if they?
Sounds good.
I'd
Okay.
like to see those if possible.
Yes, we'll get that done.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, moving on to the next page that says Capital Projects Fund Summary up towards the top. This is the project fund that we were just talking about where the money was being transferred in. So on the revenue side here, you see the offset to the expenses that you saw on the previous page. So these are transfers in for the projects that we mentioned previously. So this project fund is showing revenues of $480,000. So it's just, that's the way we have to account for it, but we haven't actually spent that money yet. We're just moving it from one fund to another. As far as the expenses for this fund, the only expenses that we had was moving $4,625 out, and that's in relation to that Callow Theater upgrade project that was closed. And when the project was completed, we still had $4,600 left in the budget, so we've transferred it back to the main sales tax fund.
Okay.
So we started out in this fund with 1.1 million, added almost 500,000 through these transfers, and now our ending cash balance in the projects fund is 1.59 million.
Okay.
So the money has to be in the project fund before it's spent?
Yeah, when we are actually paying for the individual projects, we pay for those out of the projects fund.
So even though we've not actually voted to spend the money, what happens if we vote against all of these projects?
We
Can we
can,
transfer it
yep,
back?
we can transfer it back.
Yeah.
Yeah, nothing's actually been spent, but it is reserved here so that it's not spent on something else until y'all direct that it be spent on something else.
So what's the advantage? Or is there an advantage?
I think basically it reserves things that y'all have talked about so that there's not any confusion or anyone that forgets that we talked about using it for this. In the project fund, we do budget for projects on a project basis rather than an annual basis. So that money, stays year after year. We look at it as a project budget in total instead of as an annual budget in the projects fund. But yeah, the money is there either way, and EIC still has to direct that the money be spent. It's just a matter of if you want to look at it more on a project basis or on an annual basis, which is the first fund that we were looking
I
at,
think
the
as long
sales
as
tax
we've had,
improvement
as
fund.
long as we've continued those items in our forecasted budget, Todd, is that right? Then we've tried to keep that money set aside. And then once we drop them off and decide they're not going to be done, then we
Then they could be
revert them back to
transferred
the
back.
cash balance, yeah, back cash fund.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And that's kind of the idea with the ED set aside too. It's not specifically allocated for something, but it could be either transferred back or allocated for something within the project fund.
Okay.
Anything to add on that, Todd? Okay. All right. So let's see. The next page that you'll see is the project status summary. So this gets into some of the questions y'all were just asking about. You can see what projects have been funded. You can also see in that column where it says expenses to date, you can see the expenses for that project. So you can see these items that were just moved over. The money's moved over, it's set aside there for a particular project, but there have been no expenses to date for that project. But this is, I guess, an advantage of having it in the project fund. You can see it by project instead of just a total for the fund. All right, and the last page is just a recap on cash and investments. So you can see that between the two funds, there's $5,880,834, and we have it invested in investments that don't earn very much money, but are allowed under state law for us to publicly invest funds. So we have some CDs and we have some short-term investments in what's called pool accounts that are similar to a money market account for government agencies, earning a little bit of interest.
Good.
All right.
Any more
That's-
questions? Thank you, Amy.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay, item 4 is executive session. I think we have some business, Todd, is that correct, to discuss? So if I could get a motion to put us into executive session, I believe it will need to go under 551.072, deliberation of real property.
I so move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. At 4:30, we'll go into executive session. Okay, I'll bring us back into session at 4:41. There was no votes taken and no action taken during the executive session. Is there any other business? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I so moved.
A motion,
Second.
second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.